Anniversaries come around all the time in a big franchise, especially something as massive as Doctor Who. One year we're celebrating 100 years of the show with the Centenary Special. Next year we're apparently celebrating 60 years of the show with the Septuagenarian Special. Anyway, today I want everyone to cast their minds back to 90 years ago to the first Doctor Who Anniversary Special, held on the show's 10th anniversary, where they invited every actor who had played the Doctor at that point back for a special celebratory story called The Three Doctors, even though it only features two of them in prominent roles, and confusingly it wasn't even broadcast on the show's 10th anniversary. Because this show has never learned how time works and it's not going to start now. So, because everyone knows what this episode's deal is going in because the title flashes up at the start, since it's already baited us with past Doctor returns, it doesn't really need to worry about having a hook that's any more complicated than just some monsters are attacking everybody for some reason. Rawr! Basically, some wibbly-wobbly jelly monster thing is attacking random people and the Doctor's car, and making them disappear. And apparently it's because of this black hole in space, inside of which is a universe of antimatter, where there's a planet containing Omega, a co-founder of Time Lord Society, who wants revenge on the Time Lords for abandoning him or something. And so the Time Lords allow the Doctor to meet his past selves to help him defeat Omega, because, I don't know, two heads are better than one. And if you're going to get mad at me for failing to adequately explain whatever the hell's happening, in my defence, the characters also describe it in similarly vague terms.
Yes, but what was after you?
Well, some kind of powerful organism thing with a very strong hunting instinct.
Some kind of powerful organism thing probably never did well as a piece of Doctor Who merchandise. Tell you what I want to see you bring back in the new series, Russell. Some kind of powerful organism thing. I know this is supposed to be an untouchable classic here, but I just felt my brain melting into goo while watching The Three Doctors. When the show got revived in 2005, it came under criticism for being more of a fantasy show than a sci-fi show because of its focus on human drama, and its gibberish technobabble didn't exactly mean much when you broke it down. It was very much just a case of let's point a screwdriver at a thing and say some nonsense words. But if you watch back episodes like The Three Doctors, you will find similar levels of meaningless gibberish. Doctor Who was never exactly a hard sci-fi show. Did you really learn much science from 70s Doctor Who? Did you actually learn that much about what antimatter is based on watching The Three Doctors? It's all built on impossible stuff anyway. Like, this episode involves the Doctor and Jo being transported to a stable alien planet inside of a black hole. And if in real life you went inside this thing, you probably wouldn't find a planet containing a ranty alien in a weird mask. You'd probably just, die. The most realistic bit in The Three Doctors was this trippy sequence in episode 3, where the Doctor fights Omega in this black void metaphysical headspace thing. And guess what? There's no sound in it, because they're meant to be in space, and sound can't travel in a vacuum. So that's a bit of this episode that's based on a real science fact. There's no sound in space. More realistic than most sci-fi of the time. See this bit in Star Wars. Shut up, Star Wars. There's no sound in space. This movie is a lie. So, yeah, just face it, guys, the old show and the new show are similarly pulpy bits of whimsy. This episode is about some over-decorated Christmas tree aliens that are attacking, and the aliens are working for a narcissistic godlike figure trapped inside a black hole. It's not an intellectually stimulating experience, and it's really not meant to be. The new show just translated these basic elements into a modern context by giving its characters more realistic reactions to fantastical situations. Well, the Chibnall era aside. Because characters being unrealistically fine with weird events was very much a common problem in the old show. Like this incidental character in this episode, Dr. Tyler, he gets attacked by the wibbly-wobbly jelly monster and gets sent to another planet inside a black hole. And his reaction to this isn't to scream and go, "What the hell just happened to me? Oh my god, I'm going to die," like a normal person would. No, what he does is he writes scientific equations in the dirt and calmly and methodically tries to explain this silly gibberish to himself.
E equals MC squared. There's no doubt about that.
So yeah, the Time Lords get involved and make it so the Doctor's allowed to cross his timeline and meet his former self, because if they didn't do that, then that title wouldn't make sense. And he and his former self don't really get on, and there's a lot of bickering, and for that reason the Time Lords decide to send in the first Doctor as well to get them to shut up and start working together. But they had to write around this because of Hartnell's health issues at the time, and they have him trapped inside this weird liminal space on the monitor, which actually works quite well for the first Doctor. He always had this air of an omniscient, godlike figure, and having him as this rarely seen, controlling presence stays true to the mystique of his character. Hartnell is definitely the element of the three Doctors that holds up the best. It's also quite funny that the Doctor's TARDIS monitor is in colour, but the Time Lords, a race of supposedly super powerful beings, can only manage black and white. As much as I've been making fun of the three Doctors, once everyone gets to Omega's domain and the plot gets going, I actually enjoyed the trippy, dreamlike feel of it. It kind of works in its favour when it stops bothering to try and explain itself and lets the viewer just bask in strange images. A lot of the episode does look stupid and cheesy, the aforementioned over-decorated Christmas tree aliens, and Omega's lair basically looks like a seaside hall of mirrors, but if treated like this barrage of weird, nonsensical imagery, it can be quite a fun 70s head trip. If they just stopped trying to explain how any of it works, then it would probably be easier to take it seriously. They have this storytelling device where the second Doctor and the third Doctor do telepathic contact, where they talk in their minds, so they don't have to bother explaining everything that's going on to each other. And they probably should have done that more often so they could hide just how much gibberish gets spat back and forth between the characters throughout the runtime. Anyway, so they defeat Omega by making a bomb thing out of a recorder sellotaped to a piece of plastic, and that turns his domain into a supernova, and then he's dead. So, all that begs the question. Why is The Three Doctors such a beloved Doctor Who classic? Because a little bit of extra lore aside, it's basically just a bunch of people bickering with each other on a series of sound stages. Well, the reason it's so famous is because it's a multi-Doctor story. That's pretty much it. The Three Doctors sustains itself primarily on the fan squee generated by watching 1, 2 and 3 have arguments with each other and spouting lines about how you redecorated the TARDIS that ended up getting riffed to death in the following decades. It doesn't give them much to do because it just doesn't feel the need to. And if any of you are going to get mad at me for misrepresenting just how deep and intelligent this experience is and that it's totally not the 1970s televisual equivalent of popping candy, The Three Doctors basically admits that it's a bunch of gibberish with the final line from an incidental character once he's been sent back to Earth from Omega's domain.
Where have you been? Soldiers looking for you? You didn't come home for your dinner? Well?
You'd never believe me, woman. Supper ready?
I rest my case.